Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another morning coffee talks. Man, it is Tuesday, but it's a beautiful morning at that. I wanted to talk about every marriage having its breaking point. It's a point of basically no return. It's a point where you say, I can't do this anymore. But the question is, do you quit or do you fight for it? This is the test that's going to define your marriage. And if it's a marriage that has potential, if it's a marriage that has shown resilience, it's just some decisions that have to be made. And I would say that coming to these points in marriage, it could be betrayal, it could be because of consistent arguing, emotional neglect, just years of silence building up. And this is one of the things I tell a lot of guys, man. You can't let things fester. You can't let things sit. You can't let things build up because the more they build up, the more they pile up, as the bigger the pile is gonna be, right? The bigger the storm is gonna be, versus allowing it to come out by a little bit. I know that a lot of men are taught to like, hey man, just basically, don't try to win every battle, win the wars kind of thing. But there's times where, just like in war, right? There's points of moments where it's a make or break. And every couple is gonna try to survive or surrender. And you're not crazy if it gets there. You're human. And that's just part of it. That's part of the human experience. It's part of the marriage process. It's just like there's just things that come up that you can't write in a book. You know, there's just points of time where it's so emotional. That yes, it's a breaking point, but it also can become a turning point. What feels like the end obviously could be the beginning of something deeper. But you have to have your mindset a certain way as well. Not only for yourself, but for your relationship, for your marriage. And that's an abundance mind state. That's a winning mind state. Because if you have a losing mind state, and again, don't get it wrong now. Some things you do have to break off. Some things you do have to move on from. But did you give it your all? Did you say, you know what, I'm gonna fight for it. I'm gonna give 100%. Only if the other person as well is willing to do the same thing. Not 50-50, but 100-100, right? And I think that if you're honest, if you're humble, and you're willing to change, then these are the things that's going to help that turning point to, again, be the beginning of something deeper. Some of the best marriages are built through the ugliest breakdowns. They just are. Sometimes you have to, for you to grow, you have to break. Okay, I said it like this. It's like the gym, right? If you want to grow your muscles, what do you got to do? You got to break down the muscles, right? You got to put so much pressure and tension on them that, they break down, they become sore, not just for 30 minutes, sometimes for days at a time. But you go back, you continuously work that muscle, and after a while, it builds up and builds up and builds up, and it becomes stronger, right? And another thing I want to say is, through it all, just as men, we have to choose to lead through that pain. We have to choose to lead through those moments of uncertainty. This is where the leadership really shows up. And again, not always in good times, but sometimes even in the chaos, you still got to show up. Will you choose your ego? Will you blame? Will you be silent? Right? Or will you step up? Will you take responsibility? Will you rebuild it? That's what it's going to take when it comes to that leadership and showing your partner that you're here to lead, that you can. Because they're looking for you in those times of weakness in the relationship, you know? So I'm just curious, have any of you guys that are watching, have you ever hit that breaking point in a relationship? You know, did you push through or walk away? You know, it's not. I say this: don't romanticize the past. Rebuild the future. You can't go. You can't. Yesterday was the past, right? Right now we're speaking as the present. Tomorrow is going to be the future. You know, you can't go back to how it was. That version of marriage is already broke. But the question is, what do you build from it? You know, will you build from it? You know, I would say for me is when those points get down to the foundation and put cracks in it, you know, how are you pouring concrete to fix that, to rebuild and renew that new foundation, right? Will you create new boundaries, better communication, a renewed commitment for both of y'all? I say, and one thing I'm learning in this journey of marriage, right, is healing requires humility. You can't overcome what you're not willing to confront, right? If it takes therapy, you know, accountability, starting over emotionally, sometimes you have to do it as a man because you have to create new direction on the roadmap if you come to that dead end. Again, life doesn't stop. That doesn't mean your marriage has to stop. But sometimes it will. But I think that a lot of times it's the calm before the storm, right? And it just looked like, man, I don't want to go through this storm, right? And when everything's going crazy. But guess what? A storm always passes. It always passes. There's always going to be storms. And no matter what you're doing in life, there's always going to be storms, right? And one last thing, even if you decide to stay, right? If you stand in your marriage, but you're emotionally checked out, it's still quitting, right? Either you're going to commit or release the marriage. But don't sit in silent resentment, all right? Don't do that. The breaking point in your marriage doesn't have to be the end. You know, it could be the wake-up call that you need, but it won't fix itself. It takes a lot of work. But just like anything you do in life, gonna take work. And this is something I've said before, you know, choosing your heart. It's hard not being married, but it's hard being married as well. And I see on both sides. You have to be willing to face the pain, you know, own your role in it, and fight for the relationship like your future depends on it. Because in my opinion, it does. So for a man, if you're going through that right now, I know it's early in the morning, just take a breath, pray on it. Look at what really you can do to fix it. Because again, you can only control you, right? And just take one step forward. Because again, you're not alone. A lot of men do feel this. A lot of men are going through this. But we have to do the work first. And I think this will be able to help you overcome that breaking point. So what y'all think about that? Drop a comment below. Subscribe to the Husband Code if it's your first time. If you've been watching for a while, subscribe. Also, if you got any value from this video, hit that like button and then hit that notification bell because we're going to continuously drop videos like this all the time. And until next time, I appreciate y'all. Much love. Peace.